Ki ani adefa anashem ki ani adefa ani adefa Hashem, it's good to be here for my annual dose of humility. Always feel very strange teaching on Shlomo's Yahrtzeit because I know people in this room who have much deeper and closer connection with Shlomo. So, but I also know that every neshama has their own light that they receive from the Torah, and their own light that they receive from Hashem, and their own light that they receive from holy people. So, it's really important to get all the different, holy people. It's really, you can't really understand them. Holy people, you can't understand them. No, but you really can't understand them because there's so many sides to them. So many faces. Because as a person gets to be more and more like Hashem, so just like Hashem has an infinite number of ways and to express himself in the world, so you get, like, I tell you a little story about Shlomo that I heard, and I believe it's true, although, I heard a story that it was Shabbat by somebody in I think it was Montreal, somewhere in Canada, and he was there and for Shabbat, and they said, we're so sorry, we're vegetarian. So he said it's okay, I'm also vegetarian. So, then so he had a Shabbos with them, and then Tuesday evening, like they walking by on the street, and they see him eating at a meat restaurant. They said, Shlomo, he said vegetarian. He said, yeah, but I'm not a fanatic. So, just a little taste of it, mamash. So there's so the holy people become like a prism, and the light comes through, and then it sort of gives off in different colors. And if you want to really get to know a little bit about a holy person, you need to try and gather the different colors, the different faces, the different voices, So one thing I want to say is that I know the people who were with Shlomo for many years, they all call him Shlomo. And I know that he also, at least I think he said he wanted that. And I think that that's really powerful for anybody who knew him, because, we get all these attachments to words like Rav and Rabbi, and, and there's something that's deeper in a certain sense without that. However, and so anybody who knew him, like you say, Shlomo, is all of a sudden just, but the truth is we're, 20 years later, and, looking around this room, I think, probably at least half, maybe more than half the people here probably never met him. And so in my humble opinion, I feel like now I need to say Rav Shlomo, because people need to know that Shlomo wasn't just a sweet person. He was a very, very, tremendous teacher. And Bichlal, in our time, we've kind of lost that sense of yira for Talmidei Chachamim, for teachers, so, I call him Rav Shlomo. That's just for me, so you can call him whatever you want. Baruch Hashem, now he'll take anything. But, last night we saw this video of Rav Shlomo from 1973. There's this video on Israeli television. It's really unbelievable. It's on a lot of ways. It's unbelievable. It's about an hour program, and he's singing Nigunim, and he says these little short Torahs, and he told the story of Yosele, the Kamsan Kadosh, the holy, what's the word? Miser, right? So I'm not going to tell the story because I don't know how much time we have, but at the end it was so unbelievable, because he said just one line at the end that just blew my mind. He said now, if there's anybody here who's maybe a grandson or a grandchild or a granddaughter or something, so now we need to pray to Kadosh Baruch Hu, who's the ultimate holy miser, who gives out, so much that nobody knows, and just say shalom, shalom, like ask for peace. And just that thought, how do you can relate to God as, Kamsan Kadosh, it was just blew my mind, just that. So also, holy people, after they leave the world, they're also like that, because nobody sees what they're doing, but they're doing a tremendous amount. So that's one thing, and I wanna. The reason that I say also Rav Shlomo is because most people, I think, and a little bit this is not true anymore, but most people aren't aware of, just how much, what Torah Rav Shlomo had. In fact, on this tape, he says his name Rabbi Nachman, and this is one of those things that I don't know where in Rabbi Nachman, he probably, Rav Shlomo sat for 20 seconds with the Torah and did a process that we would all take 20 years to do, and you go, okay, let me just tell you the bottom line is. So he said Rabbi Nachman says that your mind can understand anything, but the heart only understands stories, and the neshama only understands singing. And so he said, if we, we need to tell stories, we need to sing, we need to dance, we need to. But what that also means, if you listen a little bit carefully to what he's saying, is that everything. I went the first time I met Rav Shlomo was at this gathering, like something like this, but it was maybe 150 people, and it was a learning. But a learning means, a nigun and a story and a teaching and a story and a nigun, and it's like, and it's all Torah. It's all Torah. It's all Torah, and so as much as we enjoy listening to the music or even singing the nigunim and the stories, like, wow, it feels so good, but the truth is it's all Torah. And so I think, first of all, we should be aware of that. I always feel on any Yahrtzeit, but obviously the Yahrtzeits, there's about four Yahrtzeits a year for me that are like, this is, it's Rav Shlomo and Rav Menachem and Rabbi Nachman and Rav Kook for me. So this is what Rabbi Nachman says about people leaving the world. And I always feel that it's a teaching not only about what's going on, but also about what our work is. If we're all here to learn a little bit and to connect to Rav Shlomo, so this is a little bit what we need to be doing. So Rabbi Nachman says like this, even when the time comes for someone to leave the world, and the neshama goes up and cleaves to the place that it goes up to, in those upper worlds. This is not the ultimate. It's beautiful, but it's not the ultimate. That the neshama should only be connected above. The ultimate greatness of a neshama is when it's up above, it's also below. על כן צריך שישאיר אחריו ברכה בן או תלמיד. So that's why a person needs to leave after them a bracha, a child or a student, כדי שישאר דעתו למטה גם כן בעת שנסתלק למעלה. So that their awareness, their da'at, which is the essence of the person, the da'at that they have, should be not only above, it should be left down here below. So you understand that on the one hand, Rabbi Nachman is just saying that's your work. If you're going to leave the world, so make sure there's somebody left after you who has a little bit of your da'at, but it also is the work of the people who are connected to that neshama, that when we bring that da'at into the world, we are not only doing ourselves a favor, we're also helping to mashlim the neshama that went up. And it's a really interesting thing, Rabbi Nachman says, because most people think that when a neshama leaves the world, what we do is an ilui neshama, right? We do something and that's going to make their neshama go up. So Rabbi Nachman says, okay, that's cute, but you need to make the neshama come down. You need to make the neshama and its awareness and its holiness more present in the world. And that's our work. This is Torah Zayin in the second half of Likutei Moran. It's the fourth paragraph. And the amazing thing is Rabbi Nachman goes on and says the truth is everybody can have students. You know how you have students? Have a real conversation with somebody. Have a real conversation and, give over something about Yirat Shamayim. Then you have a student. Because the minute that you're talking and somebody's listening, right at that moment, they're learning from you. And then a few minutes later, the conversation goes on, and then they talk back. Then then you're the student, right? So we can all, I mean, somebody said to me last night. We were walking to the kever last night, and he said to me, he said, I'm understanding every year, every all the time, deeper and deeper. What Shlomo said. He said, in this generation, like we all need to be little rebbes, right? Because there's no rebbes anymore, right? So I don't know on what level did you mean there's no rebbes anymore. I feel it that, the greatness of neshama that I feel like you need to have to be called a rebbe. The truth is, it's hard to find those people. So Shlomo said, we all need to be little rebbes, and a little rebbes means that we have to take whatever dot that we have, whatever we call it, a little bit, a lot, it doesn't matter, and share it and receive it, right? That's our avodah, and it reminds me of this midrash of this beautiful midrash about Matan Torah, about Har Sinai. So everybody knows we were all there at Har Sinai as one. We all heard, we're all there together at Har Sinai, but the Midrash says, everybody stops there. But the Midrash says, the truth is that when the Torah was being given over, when Hashem spoke, everybody heard it differently. Everybody heard it in their own voice. There's another Midrash said everybody heard it in their father's voice. It's a really interesting Midrash, a few different opinions of whose voice, because it says Elokim Ya'anenu B'kol. God spoke with a voice, right? So whose voice, right? How did we hear it? But everybody heard it differently. And then the Midrash says, so what happened right afterwards? What happened the day after? You think about this, but everybody knows that, we're there, Har Sinai was awesome, we freaked out a little bit, but then, received the Torah, and then Moshe Rabbeinu went up to Har Sinai, and then what happened? Well, what was Am Yisrael doing? What? Well, the Egel HaZahav was only 40 days later. What was everybody doing? So the Midrash says, unbelievable thing. It says in the Kablin Dein Min, they were telling over to each other. And I'm just imagining these like circles. I don't know. Maybe that's just my imagination. Everybody heard. Then okay, we heard the Torah. What did you hear? Okay, and everybody's giving over to each other, and that's why we heard it. Each one in their own way. Right? Because everybody has to give over a piece, right? And so also neshamas, when they leave the world, the more children and talmidim that they have, so the more da'at is left in the world, and especially if those talmidim, those students do what they're supposed to do, which is to share the da'at that they got. And that's, so that's, especially on the Yahrtzeit, but bichlal, if you feel that you received something from Shlomo, then there's an avodah. And that word I'm going to come back to, the word avodah, because it's unfortunately not yet well-known enough word. Avodah that we have, as and anybody who's here for sure, but this. It's awesome to go to Rav Shlomo's grave, to his kever on the Yahrtzeit. I mean, I've always gone, last 16 years I've gone at night, and it's really awesome. I'm sure it's like that in the day too, because you just see, wow, look at all these neshamas. I mean, it's unbelievable, like the kinds of people, you wouldn't think. I wouldn't think. Someone told me that at the Levaya, which I wasn't zochet to be at. I was in the army. At the Levaya, they were there. Someone told me last night that we had a beautiful gathering last night at our house. But at the Levaya, so this couple who was there was very close to Shlomo. They saw this man standing on the side who looked totally disconnected. He didn't know what was he doing there. It was so the man was thinking this. I said, if I was Shlomo, I would go over to him now and say, but so the man came up to him three seconds later, and he comes up and he says, listen, like, what's going on here? He said, what do you mean what's going on here? He said, what are you doing here? So the man said, I'm from Kol Ha'ir, right? It's this Jerusalem magazine, and they sent me to cover this funeral, but I don't even know who the person is. You know, who's he's like, so can you just tell me something, man? And this man is standing there, saying, "Oh, I'm supposed to give over to him." Like, who's Shlomo? Like, it's like, who's this person who's being buried? And if you think about it, it's unbelievable because, how these connections are just they're just mind blowing. And so I what I'm hearing from Rabbi Nachman is a two-way thing. Obviously, it's not my place to say anything about this, but obviously it's Rav Shlomo's job to have children and Talmudim. But then it's our job to do that work, and as I said, not just give an Elui Neshama, but give a Yeridat Neshama into the world. That Rav Shlomo's Neshama should be here. One of the things that I wanted to share a little bit about is, there's two kinds of ways of being holy. One is doing, and one is being. In other words, you have a moment when you just are, just, again, something that I don't know. I can't say I've experienced it, but I can say I've tasted a little bit, especially when I was around Rav Shlomo. Like, there's something called dveikut. Dveikut means cleaving to God, being one with God, being, connected. And, I don't know how to say who has that and who didn't have that. It's a hard thing to say. But, even that taste of it, you have a davening and all of a sudden, right? Or I can only say the first night that I met Rav Shlomo was like that. I didn't even have words you put this into words, because I didn't know anything. I just came, I heard about him, I came, and then for 3 hours, like, something happened. Right? What happened, I can tell you a little bit, a few Torahs that he said. I can tell you the first nigun he sang, it's the only one I know for a fact he sang. Everything else, I don't know what it was. I haven't managed to put my hands on a tape of that night, although there is one. But it's buried in, like 1,000 tapes somewhere. I have to listen to every single one. But anyway, but I do know that when I walked away that night, besides having my whole world kind of taken apart, I knew that God was not a character in Tanakh, in the Bible, right? I knew that God is a real thing, a real being, that I was in the company of someone who was constantly aware of that relationship. And it was, so that's, and I think a lot of people, many people who connected or connect to Rav Shlomo, their experience is one of being. It's one of the dveikud. It's one of touching a place that brings out a tremendous yearning and connection. And that's beautiful, and it's amazing. And then I think about Rav Shlomo. What was he doing in every concert, in every gathering where he's singing, every Shabbat? And I have to say, I don't know, but the feeling I get is that he was always doing avodah. Always, for lack of a better translation, there really is not a good translation. He was always working. He was always serving. He was always, even singing a nigun can be an experience or it can be an avodah. Now those two things come together. It's not like they're so separate like I'm making them. But the reason I'm putting them apart for a second is because when you start to relate to life as avodah, then that means that every moment you can change. You can have an amazing davening, and then the next day, all you can say is, wow, that was a beautiful davening. But on a certain level, if it didn't bring you to a place where you're a different person now, then you need to do it again. And I was talking to Judy before a little bit. People received a lot from Shlomo. There's lines that people say and have in their mind. But the deepest question is, okay, now you have that. Now what are you going to do with that? What does that mean for you? Are you going to say, I'll tell you, Rabbi Nachman, and my connection to Rav Shlomo now I know is very much Rabbi Nachman, and I heard him say, and I've heard many people heard him say, he said everybody needs two Rebbes, right? They need their Rebbe and they need Rabbi Nachman. So he said that, right? I mean, how many times did he say that, right? And then I heard several people tell me that they were at an event or something where somebody asked them, well, what are you? Who's your Rebbe? And he said, and again, I don't know if he said other things at different places, but this is what he said. And that's what he said, I'm 2 times Rabbi Nachman. He said, my Rebbe is Rabbi Nachman, and also I have Rabbi Nachman as my Rebbe, right? But, so, for me, again, that's my, even though I know that Rav Shlomo was very, very connected also to the Meshivach, to Ishbitz, and they're not necessarily so far apart, but so Rabbi Nachman said, if you had a Rebbe like me, he said to his Hasidim, he said, if you had a Rebbe like me, if I had a Rebbe like you, that's what he said. If I had a Rebbe like you, I would walk all the way, like on foot, to go see him. And I was thinking about this last night, because, we went at 11:30 at night, we went to go to Hartman, and there was a whole bunch of Chaver on bikes. But then I walked, and I probably would have taken a ride if somebody gave me a ride, but I walked. And the whole time I'm thinking is, as a Gemara, it says, which usually Pshat means you have to go see a Rav on the Chag, on the 3 regalim. But you have to go see a Rav on foot. So Rabbi Nachman said, I would walk the whole way. But then somebody asked him, so what about on the way back? What would you do on the way back from, the Rebbe? So Rabbi Nachman said, I would run. And it's such a different picture from people who relate to a Rebbe. Rebbe is somebody you go to, and then, so beautiful, and then you walk away, and okay, you have the joy of whatever it was, and you have a little bit of sadness, like, oi, now we have to leave. Rabbi Nachman said, no, but, my picture of a Rebbe is somebody you go to, and when you leave, you have so much energy to go and do, right? Right? You fly, right? Well, he said run. Maybe he didn't want to get people in trouble, but maybe you fly, right? But, and I heard this last night. I heard something Rav Shlomo said. I don't know. It must have been the last year of his life. Part of how I know that he was doing avodah all the time is if anybody sees videos of the last year of Rav Shlomo's life, if you really look at him, he's so tired. He's so tired, and he didn't stop for a second. Like, he's just so tired. And I know he didn't stop. I saw him here the last summer he was here, and he just, he was so, I mean, I heard this, that he used to come home to the Moshav at 4 o'clock in the morning, and then they wake him up at 5:30 to go teach a Gemara here, and he would get up and go teach Gemara. I mean, like, I don't know, it's a little bit, we don't have vessels for that usually, but to even hear that, but so he said on this video, he said basically, if people have enough joy and enough strength, like they know what they need to do. He said, so what I need to do is give them strength to do what they know they need to do. Right? And he said some people do that by telling people like what they need to do. He said, but maybe this is what he was saying on this video. He said maybe I'm a little bit more successful because I don't tell people what to do. I just try to give them vitamins. Like he said, like vitamin S, right? Vitamin S is Shabbat, right? Or Simcha, right? Vitamin S. But and I was thinking a lot about it afterwards. Is that really, really what a Rebbe does is giving strength to people to do and to be what they really know they need to be. And I want to share with you, I can't say I know. Some people talk about why they know, but, if Shlomo left Thursday night of Parshat Vayera, so Yahrtzeit's always around this Parsha, and the first verse in Parshat Vayera says, Vayera elav Hashem be'elamei mamrei, that God appeared to Avram in Elamei mamrei. So the Midrash says, why did God appear in Elamei mamrei? Why that? So we know Mamre was one of a trio of three brothers. Mamre, Aner, and Eshkol, three brothers who were, Avram's best friends. And so the Midrash says that Avram Avinu, which is a very strange Midrash in itself, like why he had to do this, but he got the mitzvah to do Brit Milah, to do circumcision, and he went to his friends to ask them what they think. It's very strange, like why would Avram Avinu, the one mitzvah, he had to go and ask what they think. So anyway, he goes, and Aner says to him, listen, you're 99 years old. Are you crazy? I mean, okay, it's beautiful, but you're 99 years old. So Eshkol says to him, listen, you're already done so many things that you're so different from everybody. Do you really want to make enemies of the whole world? That's what Eshkol said to him. And the deepest, of course, is Mamre. Mamre, his name means inciter, right? Somebody who incites. So he's right. So Mamre says to Avram Avinu, he says, listen, God took care of you so far. Maybe you could trust him a little bit. And really what Mamre was saying was, I know you know what you need to do. So all I need to do is give you a little bit of strength to do it. Trust God. And God said so. I'm sure God's going to take care of you. And it's so deep to me because it's not clear to me that Mamre did a brit, himself. But what he was saying to Avram is like, you have something you need to do. So my job as a friend is to give you the strength to do it. And that's the first teaching, the first midrash on Parshat Vayera. And I'm thinking to myself, Shlomo, I don't know. These are things I don't know. But what an amazing, teaching that, I think Rav Shlomo, got it in a much deeper way. He said, I don't need to tell people what to do because everybody has what they need to do. It's very different. It's very different. I don't know exactly how to define or describe Rav Shlomo's relationship with the people who receive from him, but definitely Rav Shlomo's students are very colorful. They're not, there are some who are black and white, and that's also a color, right? But there's all kinds of colors, and I don't just mean externally, right? And the reason is because, there's all the colors in the world. Am Yisrael, part of what its power, its strength is in the world is that we're all these different colors, and we bring them all, right? So you can't say that there's one thing, okay, you need to do, everybody needs to do this. Right? Okay, there's the mitzvot, but And so Rav Shlomo had a way of, I want to wake you up to you. And what you need to do, you as a Jew, and that's an amazing thing because everybody knows that a lot of what Rav Shlomo did was a total chidush. It was new, the way he taught, the way he sang, the way he davened, the way he, and at the same time, what he was doing was really connecting everybody back to their tradition. It's this amazing, putting together of two things, how you can be so, just teaching like, oh, it's so, your tradition is so beautiful, be traditional, right? And at the same time, it's like totally new, right? I mean, it's unbelievable a little bit how to put those two things together. Last night I was saying there's a midrash that Rav Shlomo, I heard from Rav Shlomo, I don't know, I have to find it inside from the Ishbitzer. He says, when Melchizedek came out to Avraham, so he brought him bread and wine. So he said, the Meshilach says, wine is the best when it's really, really old. Right? The older the wine, the better the wine. Right? Bread is the best, the freshest it is, right? The fresher it is, the better it is. So what he was teaching Avraham was, I want to give over to you that some things need to be the most ancient and some things need to be the most fresh, right? And the secret of what needs to be what, right? So, so even though there's this whole teaching of being connected to the ancient, to the tradition, to our grandparents and our great-grandparents and, all the way back, there's also a teaching about you're a new neshama in the world. And even if you're not a totally new neshama, it's the new experience that your neshama is having in this Gilgul, right? And that has a certain work that it has to do in this world. And the thing that we need the most is strength to do that. Strength to listen to ourselves, and strength to be able to do what we need to do. And maybe also a little bit of, cleaning out our ears so we can hear it, But you don't need anybody else to tell you that. You need someone else to help you to be that, to hear it, to live it, right? So that's Mamre, right? And it's an amazing thing because his name means to incite. Because sometimes when someone tells you do what you need to do, so in the eyes of the world, that's like, oh, it's inciting. But the truth is, it's really just giving strength, And that's another avodah, work that we have, if we want to take Rav Shlomo's da'at into the world, is to learn how to give each other strength from a real place, a place that really knows, I'm not talking about my work now. I'm trying to help you do yours, so I'm not going to try to put mine on you. And at the same time, I want you to know, like, you can be real about this. You don't have to be weak. You don't have to be, you can have, and that's a very, very important teaching. And it comes from a belief, which is a very simple belief in all of Hasidut, that God is everywhere. And what that means has ramifications much deeper than, God is everywhere, it's all one. It's deeper than that. It means that every neshama that you meet, every person you meet, every experience you have, there's a godly spark there, there's a godly light there. And my work, when I have this experience, when I meet this person, is to bring out that light. That's my work. If it comes out, it'll shine, right? You don't need, you don't need to make it. You don't have to color it. You don't have to make a new, there's nothing, it's there. The work is to bring it out, to bring it out. And but it's, and now I'm going to go back to this word that I feel is so, so precious, but so misunderstood. It's avodah. Now, avodah in modern Hebrew means work, and it's very related to another word that we really hate, an eved, right, a slave. And a lot of people confuse it and therefore try to move away from avodah because, what do you mean? That's slavery. I want to just be. I want to be holy. I mean, I'm not talking about people who don't want to be holy. I'm saying I want to be holy, but I want to be. I want to bask in the light. I want to, enjoy. I want to, I want to go to a davening and get inspired. I want to get, I want to go to the Rebbe because, wow, it's so sweet to be by him, right? Or her. But really, Gemara says something which is a little bit, how do I say, it's daunting to us. The Gemara says, Talmidei Chachamim, Ein lahem menucha, lo ba'olam hazeh v'lo ba'olam haba. Right? Talmidei Chachamim, holy people, have no rest in this world or in the next world. Once I read that, my Rosh Yeshiva sometimes used to tell us in Yeshiva, he said, he used to say, sleep when you're dead. But then I realized, I'm not going to sleep when I'm dead either. It's like, it just keeps going. And, Rabbi Nachman, actually, in this teaching, it's an amazing teaching because it's from, a year or two before he passed away. And he's talking a lot about what the neshama does after it leaves the world. It's a really amazing thing. And he says, you go to the next world, it's not like you stop. You still, there's time in the next world too. It's not time like we know it. It's awarenesses of God, right? Because that's really what time is. It's really what time is. Everybody, I'm sure, knows the story about the Jose Lublin, his clock. The story, I heard it from Rav Shlomo in one version, and then I read it in Rav Shmuel Zivan's book in a different version. I don't know if he told it two different ways. I don't know. But anyway, the clock is this clock that doesn't say, okay, every second goes by is 1 second closer to death, which is the way most people's clocks work, or many people's clocks work. Time is a jail, and as time goes by and it's closing down. But the Chose's clock is it's 1 minute closer to Mashiach, right? 1 minute closer to Mashiach. So I want to add something to that, even though it's not, it's a chutzpah, let's say. It's okay to be chutzpahdik sometimes. Time in general is not about the passing of time, but it's about the fact that every moment is a new opportunity to know God, right? A minute ago, I had the awareness I had, right? If I have another minute, then next minute is a new thing. It's not ending, it's beginning. It's beginning all the time, right? And if somebody lives like that for real, so Rabbi Nachman says, you get to the end of your life, physical life, it doesn't stop. So now there's a new minute. It's not measured in the kind of time that we measure in this world, but it's a new minute. It's a new awareness, right? But when the Gemara says, Talmidei Chachamim don't have rest, which in our ears sounds like, how am I going to live like that? The truth is, somebody last night said to me, there was a whole gathering at our house, and they walked to the kever, and they were like, I just don't have strength to go. I said, you know yourself, what you need. But how do you know that when you get there, you won't have strength? We're all, measure ourselves based on what we are. But the next moment, who knows? Right? Who knows? And it's, of course, it's a very dangerous Torah, right? Because some people really kill themselves but part of why, and again, I don't understand this, I'm not on this level, but why, when you talk about holy people, like, they don't sleep very much, right? I think it's because when you're really meeting life as a new thing every moment, so, okay, I'm tired, but maybe the next minute I'll get some strength. Who said I need to go to sleep, right? And again, I'm not saying don't go to sleep. Going to sleep's good too. And there's even a way to do that that'll give you strength, but there's something about that of anticipating, of looking forward to, you know what? You know, the Gemara says that at the time of the Sukkot, the Simchat Beit HaShoeva, so the rabbis, they say, we never slept. We'd doze off here and there. We couldn't sleep. I mean, there's just so much going on. I mean, how could you sleep, right? There's something very powerful about even imagining life like that. Okay, maybe we get tired and we need to go to sleep, and maybe our children need us to go to sleep, but I mean, often our children need us to be awake. This is, you know, but just imagining life as being so alive that if I'm tired now, 2 minutes from now, I could not be tired anymore. You know, I can learn Torah, and this is another thing. You know, Rav Shlomo, everybody knows this. Rav Shlomo had a book with him all the time. And a person who I feel, you know, very connected for me to Rav Shlomo, and also to, you know, Rav Menachem Furman also. Didn't say he was always had a book everywhere. And on one level you think, oh, come on, you know. But the truth is, it's not just about the book. It's about knowing that every moment I can learn. Every moment I can learn. And every moment I can learn Torah. And we have such a zchut. Like, I don't know if you realize, we live in this, we live in a Gan Eden of Torah. You know, anybody can learn Torah now. Maybe you can't learn on the, you know, this level or that level, but it doesn't matter. Wherever level you are, whatever you can learn, there's books in every language, and there's people in every language and in every, you know, and everybody can learn. And it's an unbelievable zchut. We don't even, you know, it's such a different world than even the world Rav Shlomo grew up in, but not to mention 100 years ago, 200 years ago. And it's not just, oh, that's really beautiful. It's because God thinks that we have vessels to learn. And so it's not just to take a book around with you everywhere and it's, oh, I'm connected. It's, you know, really, it's life is that. Life is learning. Life is, and if I could relate that way to life, and every moment I'm going next level, you know, and some of them are hard. I'm not saying it's easy. It's a hard life. You know, life is hard. And one of the most beautiful things I heard from Rav Shlomo was this perush that he had to you know, the first Tehillim that we say on Kabbalat Shabbat. So everybody knows, you know, we start L'chu Niranena Hashem, beautiful, let's go sing to God, you know, it's beautiful. But then all of a sudden in the middle of this Tehillim, it's like, you know, and don't be like the generation of the desert, and you know, we walked for 40 years in the desert, and I was, you know, God says I was, you know, I had you know, a little bit angry, and then in the desert, and you know, I did promise they wouldn't go into the land for 40 years, and like, what do we, you know, Shabbat? Like, okay, that's part of our reality. It's important. Tisha B'Av, I need to learn about what, like, that's how I start Shabbat. So he said, it's a long journey. And on Friday night, I say to God, thank you so much for making it such a long journey. Because the longer it is, the deeper it is. Thank you so much that it's 40 years. Thank you so much that it took us such a long time to get to Eretz Yisrael. Because every moment that goes by, the awareness is deeper, it's more powerful, it's more connected. And so, even though it's harder, and it's hard, and Galut is hard, and waiting is hard, waiting is very hard. And it's totally understandable, you know. When people say, we want it now, Mashiach now, we want peace now, we want, you know. But on the other hand, even though it takes a long time, it's a really precious thing, because every moment I know it deeper. Every moment I know it deeper. And so if I can switch the way I relate to life, I'm not running from experience to experience to try to feel good, but I'm going from minute to minute, knowing that every minute is a teaching, every minute is whatever the teaching is, you know, and sometimes it really is, the teachings are so hard. If I know that my whole life doesn't end, even when I leave this world, you know, it's a form that's ending, it's not a essence. So that's turning my life around from being, how do I say this, just absorbing to avodah. You know, that's the work. And it says that when we were created, human being was created, God put us in Gan Eden to work. Not to work like, right? But l'ovdah l'shomra, right? That's, and if I know that, and I'm zoche to be connected to teachers who live like that, who work all the time, then I all of a sudden realize it's so precious, the work. It's so beautiful. It's not slavery. It's not slavery. It's mamash. And some people relate to it as tikkunim. And this is something else that I heard last night in Rav Shlomo. Was a beautiful, beautiful. He said, Rav Menachem Mendel of Vitebsk and the Apter Rav, they were talking once. And the Apter Rav asked Menachem Mendel of Vitebsk, he said, what do you do at night? So Menachem Mendel of Vitebsk said, I'll tell you the truth, every night I'm fixing the things that I did wrong. Every night I'm going back and fixing. And Dr. Rav said, you know, that's very important. But I'm doing something else at night. I go to every angel, I go to every child, I go from every neshama to neshama, and I say, I want you to get ready because morning's coming. I want you to get ready because morning's coming. So we have a relationship sometimes with our avodah as tikkunim, things we're fixing, right? And that's important. We need to fix things, and we're still fixing things for 6,000 years, right? I mean, but there's on a certain level, we need to change the clock. And we need to start preparing and looking forward and living, doing, not just imagining, but living and doing with a consciousness that morning's coming and that we need to, you know, our avodah is not just fixing what was, it's looking forward, right? It's looking forward. And so a little bit, yeah, I want to bless you, everybody, if you have a chance, you know. Also, the other thing is, I said this last night, it's such a privilege to be connected to a deep teacher who lived in the time of video. You know, I was just imagining, can you imagine if we had a video of the Baal Shem Tov? I mean, just like, it's mind-blowing, right? I mean, just, you know, it's such an amazing thing, you know, that there's such a thing, you know. So I'm saying video because it used to be tape recorders, right? And I even have to say one of my biggest pleasures in my life was the second time that I went to see Rav Shlomo. It was in Los Angeles. And the first time I went, so after 3 hours, he said, okay, I need a break. I need to go where a Jewish man goes alone. Right? So I don't know. Nobody laughed, so I guess they didn't get it, right? I meant the bathroom, right? Like, that's the only place a Jewish man goes alone. But anyway, but anyway, so I was a break, so I left. So the second time I already knew better, so I didn't leave after the break. I stayed, right? And so I'm sitting there. It was about 3 hours also, and took a break, and then they realized that the tape recorder hadn't worked for those 3 hours. So they tried. It was like a half an hour, and they were trying to piece together things. And they got some pieces, but it wasn't the whole thing. And I had such a pleasure. I was like, wow, I didn't even know anything. I didn't use these words. I can say it now in the words that I would use now. I had such a zchut to be there at a teaching that wasn't recorded, you know? So whoever was there is the only people who got it, and the only people who can give something over. But nevertheless, so many thousands of hours, of recordings. And the reason I'm saying that is so I want to bless you. It's very easy nowadays to see a recording of Rav Shlomo doing something, anything, all over the world. And I want to bless you to watch one time, not in order to enjoy, but watch him do the avodah. Even if he's singing Nibun, even if he's teaching, even just, pay attention to how to be in a moment that's a moment and experiencing and being and working. Because when we can take that, we will be real students. And if we're real students, we can bring his neshama down. Right? Again. So everything we're doing, Bezrat Hashem, will be Ilui Neshama. I don't even know what that means for people like Rav Shlomo. Like, what does that mean? But Rabbi Nachman said we need to bring his Neshama down, bring his Da'at down to a place where it really has meaning in this world, not just as a sweetness. And then we need to give it over, whatever we get. Give it over and keep teaching and to keep giving. And Bezrat Hashem, the Da'at in the world will expand and expand until Mala'aretz de'ayt Hashem k'mayim liyam nechasim, right? The whole world will be so filled with Da'at. And then when the whole world is filled with Da'at, so we'll be able to see Tchiyat HaMetim. We'll be able to see, how those people who left the world are alive, and Bezrat Hashem also the goof. But, so we're part of that. We're not passive receivers. We're Ovdim Bezrat Hashem, and it should be a good day. It should be a really good day, and whatever you connected today, so go running afterwards, or flying. I need to tell you something. I just have to tell you what just came to me. I have to really tell you this. So that everybody knows the last line of Lechadadi is Boi B'Shalom, right? So we started Lechuner Anana, so go. So Boi B'Shalom is come. But it's not the line of the last line of Lechadadi, because everybody knows after we say Boi B'Shalom, we say Lechadadi. So after Shabbos comes in, after the Neshama comes in, so then the last thing we say is go. Let's go out. Go out. Lechadadi Likrat Kala. So really, bless us to go out. Boi B'Shalom Terevana Gam B'Simcha Utzava Gam B'Mune Amseguna Lechadadi Likrat Kala Shabbat Kamla
Hey, get what you and do something.